Well, Happy New Year. It's great to be with you today for just a quick episode of the Holiday Podcast where we sit together every Friday afternoon over some freshly baked challah bread. I hope you had a great New Year's celebration last night, even though it was probably very different than normal. But however you rung in 2021, there was probably a lot of excitement to put the past year behind us. Although excitement probably isn't the right word, is it? I guess relief might be more like it. I think we've all been ready to put 2020 behind us for a while now. Between a global pandemic and racial violence and a historically contentious presidential election, 2020 was a really hard year. It's definitely an understatement, I think, to say that 2020 wasn't anything like what any of us expected. In fact, I was thinking back to my pastor's sermon a year ago on last New Year's weekend, and he challenged us to, instead of making goals for the beginning of the year and looking forward, to imagine ourselves at the end of the year looking back, to imagine what we hoped we'd be looking back on at the end of 2020. Well, needless to say, looking back on 2020 looks a lot different than any of us imagined it would. No matter what our own expectations were, 2020 definitely took us all by surprise. Except, of course, for God. 2020 did not catch God by surprise. And there's actually a Yiddish saying that I thought of when I was looking back at my old expectations of 2020, which I won't share right now, because it doesn't matter. Didn't happen. So side note, Yiddish is basically a mixture of Hebrew and German. My grandparents used to speak it when they didn't want me and my cousins to know what they were saying. So anyway, there's a Yiddish saying that's really a lighthearted take on Proverbs 16:9. And Proverbs 16:9 is when Solomon says that people plan our course, but that God orders our steps. And so the Yiddish saying is man tracht und Gott lacht, which I probably just butchered, but it means man plans and God laughs. Man plans and God laughs. Now, this doesn't mean that God is sitting up there laughing at us. It's that he can see what's coming because he's all-knowing and is basically shaking his head at all the energy we expend, that I expend, planning and worrying and maneuvering about things that I have no control over and that I have no idea of what's really headed my way anyway. 2020 is a classic example. I guess it's like God is laughing at my attempt to be God, basically, except I'm not all-knowing and all-powerful. So man plans and God laughs. And there's actually a moment in the Old Testament where the exact opposite happened. God was the one making plans and man laughed. But actually it was a woman who laughed. So when Sarah overheard God's plan that she would have a baby in her 90s, she laughed pretty sarcastically. The plan was too outlandish, especially after all of her heartache and really messed up situations with Abraham. And she was 90. And so when his ridiculous plan actually happened, what did Sarah name her son? Exactly what God had said to name him, even before the baby was conceived. As God asked them to do, they named him Isaac, and it means he laughs. So God's name for Isaac that he gave them way before kind of redeemed Sarah's cynicism even before she could see it. She had laughed harshly, but God had the last laugh, so to say, and it was one of joy. Sarah's sarcastic laughter turned into joyful laughter as God's crazy plan came true. And so I pray that for all of us, that our maybe cynical or sarcastic words of 2020 would turn to joy and faith-filled words in 2021. In fact, I was thinking about Pastor Ryan's challenge to us last year and what that would look like if I took the same approach this year. And I realized that this year, instead of hoping that I'll look back at the end of 2021 at certain accomplishments, I hope that when I look back on 2021, that I will see someone who grew in her ability to listen well and to use words well. That we would all learn to listen better to God and to others, to our own selves when we're hurting or angry or whatever it is. And that we would listen with compassion and kindness to others. And then in 2021, we will grow in our practice of loving God and loving our neighbors, including our online neighbors, and learning how to better put myself second or third or last, really. I hope that when I look back on 2021, a year from now, I will see that my words shared the fruits of the Spirit with others who were hungry for them. Love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Because as 2020 has really shown me, about the only thing I really can control are the words I share. And that words matter. The words we said and didn't say, or maybe shouldn't have said. The words we heard and those we really wished that we had heard from somebody, or that someone else really needed to hear but didn't. So I guess what I'm saying is my goal for 2021 is to be able to look back on the year in 12 months and see someone who has listened well and who has used words well to encourage and bring healing and build bridges. Maybe that resonates with you too. And so maybe we can all be like Sarah and let our cynical and harsh laughter be transformed into words of life and joy as we live with open hands towards God in 2021. I do look forward to being with you next Friday when we've had a full week of 2021 under our belts and we have a regular podcast episode looking at an intersection of the old and the new covenant. But in the meantime, I wish you a restful Challah New Year's Day.